In trading, most people search for complexity. They chase indicators, systems, and the illusion that more information will somehow guarantee more profits. Yet the truth hides in simplicity. One strategy executed with consistency, discipline, and emotional neutrality can outperform a dozen complicated systems handled with fear, hesitation, and doubt. The market does not reward the trader who knows the most, it rewards the trader who behaves the best. And that is the essence of the one strategy daily profit approach. The real challenge is not finding a profitable strategy. Strategies are everywhere: books, courses, YouTube, mentors. But a strategy is only as good as the trader applying it. What separates a consistently profitable trader from the masses isn't technical knowledge. It is the psychological framework through which the market is perceived and acted upon. This introduction is designed to shift your understanding from the myth of perfect systems to the truth of perfect execution. Operate one strategy daily and extract consistent profit. You must build a mindset that accepts the three foundational principles of successful trading. First, any outcome is possible. No setup, no matter how strong, guarantees a winning trade. Second, you don't need to know what will happen next to make money. All you need is an edge, something that produces a higher probability of one outcome over another. Third, every moment in the market is unique. Treating each trade as a separate event frees you from the emotional baggage of previous results and prevents you from projecting expectations onto your next move. When you work with one strategy, something powerful happens. Repetition builds confidence, confidence builds clarity, and clarity builds consistency. Instead of jumping from one method to another, your mind settles into a rhythm. You learn the nuances of your setup, how it feels, how the market behaves around it, and what signals represent high-quality opportunities versus noise. This familiarity reduces hesitation, confusion, and emotional turbulence. But to make one strategy produce daily profit, you must commit to execution without resistance. That means accepting losses as natural, not as personal attacks. It means showing up every day with the same neutrality, regardless of what happened yesterday. It means following your rules even when your emotions tell you to break them. The traders who fail are not defeated by the market, they are defeated by their inability to stay disciplined in the face of uncertainty. This journey is not about mastering the market. The market cannot be mastered. It is about mastering yourself, your fears, your impulses, your need for certainty, your desire to control outcomes. When you shift your internal environment, your external results follow. With one strategy, the path becomes clear, the noise fades, and your role becomes simple. Recognize your edge, execute with discipline, and allow the probabilities to unfold. Consistency in one strategy builds long-term confidence because repetition creates familiarity, and familiarity is the foundation of emotional stability in trading. When a trader focuses on a single strategy, the mind begins to recognize patterns in the market with greater clarity. The setup becomes more than just rules on paper. It turns into an internalized framework. This internalization reduces hesitation because the trader no longer analyzes from scratch every time. Instead, decisions come from a blend of conscious understanding and subconscious pattern recognition. Over time, this repetition lowers the emotional load attached to every trade. The trader no longer fears missing out, no longer rushes into random opportunities, and no longer feels the pressure to chase market noise. With one strategy, the market stops being a chaotic battlefield and becomes a structured environment, where the trader knows exactly what to look for and how to respond. When you use just one strategy, you limit the number of variables you interact with. Fewer variables mean fewer decisions, and fewer decisions mean fewer emotional conflicts. Traders who constantly switch strategies face internal contradiction because each method demands a different mindset, a different risk approach, and a different interpretation of market behavior. This mental fragmentation creates confusion and weakens confidence. But when you commit to one strategy, your energy is consolidated. Every trade, every chart session, every analysis reinforces the same principles. The mind begins to trust the process because it sees the same logic play out repeatedly. This trust fuels confidence, and confidence fuels consistency. The market is an environment of uncertainty, and uncertainty triggers fear. But fear weakens when you encounter the same situation repeatedly and learn the correct response through experience. By applying one strategy again and again, you steadily dismantle the element of surprise. The market may always be unpredictable, but the way your strategy interacts with the market becomes highly predictable to you. This sense of structure reduces anxiety. Instead of being overwhelmed by endless possibilities, your focus narrows to what matters, waiting for your setup, managing your risk, and executing without hesitation. Confidence grows not because the market becomes easier, but because your approach becomes sharper and more reliable. Focusing on one strategy also strengthens your emotional resilience. Losses become easier to accept because you understand the probabilities behind your method. When switching strategies, a loss feels like evidence that the system is flawed. But when you work with one strategy long enough, you stop judging it trade by trade. You see losses as normal occurrences within the larger statistical picture. This shift in perception is powerful. It prevents emotional breakdowns, revenge trading, and impulsive behavior. The more you observe your strategy's edge, playing out over hundreds of trades, the more faith you develop in your process. This faith keeps you grounded even on losing days, which is where true confidence is built. Consistent use of one strategy also sharpens your ability to filter out low-quality setups. Traders often take poor trades because they are unfamiliar with the details of their own method. They can't distinguish between genuine signals and weak ones. But through repetition, your mind becomes highly sensitive to the subtle cues that separate ideal conditions from risky ones. This sensitivity reduces mistakes. It prevents forced trades. It keeps you aligned with the rules. Over time, you naturally develop a deeper understanding, not just when to enter, but when to stay out. Knowing when not to trade is one of the highest forms of confidence. Another crucial aspect is the reduction of mental fatigue. Constantly learning new strategies drains cognitive energy. It puts the mind in a perpetual learning loop, preventing mastery. Using one strategy conserves energy because the learning phase eventually transitions into a performance phase. The mental load decreases as the process becomes automatic. Automation creates emotional calm. Emotional calm creates clearer decision-making, clear deck. Decision-making leads to consistent results. This cycle builds the trader's confidence layer by layer. Your relationship with the market becomes more objective as you stay loyal to one strategy. You stop seeking excitement or drama from trading. Your focus shifts from outcome-based thinking to process-based thinking. This shift is essential for confidence because the moment your self-worth becomes tied to any single trade, confidence fluctuates uncontrollably. But when all your attention is devoted to the correct execution of one method, your emotional balance becomes stable. Wins feel like confirmation. Losses feel like part of the plan. The emotional roller coaster becomes more manageable. Working with one strategy daily creates what can be described as psychological rhythm. Every trader needs rhythm, a state where actions flow smoothly without internal resistance. Rhythm emerges from repetition. Repetition creates routine. Routine creates stability, and stability is the root of confidence. Once you find your rhythm, trading no longer feels like a fight. It becomes mechanical, almost effortless. Not because the market changed, but because you changed. You stopped trying to control the market and started controlling your behavior within it. Confidence also grows when you eliminate the noise created by external sources. If you use multiple strategies, you're constantly comparing results and questioning choices. This leads to second guessing and hesitation. But when you use one system, there is nothing to compare. No internal debates. No doubts about whether another method would have performed better. This mental clarity frees you from the psychological burden of what if. Without the weight of constant comparison, your decisions become cleaner and more decisive, reinforcing your confidence every time you act. Finally, confidence is built when your results start to stabilize. Stability comes from consistent behavior. Consistent behavior comes from repeating the same process. When your process is fixed and your actions align with it, the performance curve begins to smooth out. You experience fewer emotional extremes, fewer dramatic swings in results, and a more predictable growth in skill. This predictability strengthens belief in yourself. It turns trading from a gamble into a structured practice, and that practice, carried out day after day with one strategy, becomes the foundation upon which unshakable confidence is built. Execution matters more than prediction because the market does not reward the trader who can guess the future. It rewards the one who can consistently act on their edge without hesitation, fear, or emotional distortion. Most traders believe that success comes from being right, from forecasting the next big move, from correctly interpreting every candle or indicator. But this belief creates a psychological trap. It forces the trader to chase certainty in an environment where certainty does not exist. The market is a field of probabilities, not guarantees. No matter how skilled a trader becomes, predictions will always be limited by the randomness of price movement. What truly separates winners from losers is not the ability to know what will happen, but the ability to respond effectively to whatever does happen. Execution is the bridge between knowledge and results, and without disciplined execution, even the best predictions become useless. When a trader prioritizes prediction, their mind becomes emotionally attached to outcomes. They hope the market will follow their analysis, and when it doesn't, they freeze, hesitate, or impulsively change plans. This emotional attachment blocks objectivity. It prevents the trader from seeing what the market is actually doing because they are too focused on what they want to do. Execution frees the trader from this mental blockage. It shifts the focus from trying to be right to acting correctly. Acting correctly means following predefined rules, managing risk, and letting probabilities unfold. It means understanding that the edge is not a single trade, but a series of trades over time. Predictions come and go, but disciplined action compounds. Execution also matters more than prediction because execution is fully within the trader's control. Prediction is not. You cannot control how the market will move, when it will move, or whether your analysis will be validated. But you can control when you enter, how you position size, where you place your stop, when you exit, and whether you follow your rules. These controllable factors determine your long-term profitability far more than any forecast ever could. Traders who anchor themselves in execution develop consistency, and consistency is what makes the edge work. An edge only yields results when it is applied uniformly. A profitable strategy executed inconsistently produces random outcomes, and random outcomes destroy confidence. Confidence grows only when actions are repeatable. Most traders spend years refining their ability to analyze the market, but they spend almost no time refining their ability to execute. They add indicators, switch timeframes, follow new gurus, and chase new setups, all in pursuit of perfect prediction. They become analysts instead of traders. They know everything about the market except how to control themselves. And this is where execution becomes the true skill. Execution requires emotional discipline, mental clarity, and the willingness to follow a plan even when emotions scream otherwise. It requires ignoring impulses, resisting fear, and staying detached from the need for perfection. The ability to execute cleanly under pressure is what transforms an ordinary strategy into a profitable one. Execution also shapes how traders experience losses, and losses are inevitable. When your focus is prediction, every loss feels like a personal failure. It damages your confidence because you interpret it as a flaw in your analysis or a flaw in your abilities. But when the focus is execution, losses are simply part of the process. They do not carry emotional weight beyond the fact that they are normal within a system based on probabilities. This distinction is crucial. Traders who fear losses avoid execution. They hesitate, they sabotage their entries, they close trades too early, or they refuse to take valid setups because they are mentally stuck in prediction mode. Execution-focused traders remain emotionally neutral because they understand that the goal is not to win every trade, but to follow the rules that produce long-term results. The quality of execution also determines how well a trader manages uncertainty. Predictive traders become frustrated and confused when the market behaves unexpectedly, which is frequent. They feel lost, believing their analysis has failed. Execution-driven traders, however, do not need to know what will happen next. They only need to recognize their setup and act on it. This reduces mental pressure dramatically. It keeps the mind calm and reduces overthinking. Overthinking is one of the biggest enemies of profitable trading. It leads to analysis paralysis, missed opportunities, and emotional exhaustion. A trader who executes simply acts. A trader who predicts endlessly debates themselves. This difference becomes massive over hundreds of trades. Execution matters more because it builds a direct feedback loop between action and results. With prediction, traders evaluate themselves based on their accuracy, which is inconsistent and unreliable. With execution, traders evaluate themselves based on, well, they followed their rules. This creates measurable progress. A trader can improve execution step by step. Better entries, more consistent stop placements, precise risk management, adherence to rules. Each improvement strengthens the system as a whole. Prediction offers no such structure. It cannot be measured, refined, or perfected because the market does not behave according to personal expectations. Another reason execution outweighs prediction is that execution protects the trader from self-destruction. Many losing traders are not defeated by the market, but by their own behavior, moving stops, adding to losers, jumping into revenge trades, hesitating on winning setups, or abandoning their plan mid-trade. These behaviors are not the result of poor technical knowledge. They are the result of poor execution discipline. A trader who executes cleanly prevents small mistakes from turning into catastrophic ones. Risk stays controlled. Losses stay manageable. Emotional spikes stay contained. This stability creates the conditions for consistent profits to emerge. Execution also enhances a trader's ability to stay present. Prediction pulls the mind into the future, distracting it with expectations, hopes, and fears. Execution anchors the mind in the present moment. It sharpens awareness. It makes the trader sensitive to the actual behavior of price rather than imagined behavior. Presence is powerful in trading because it reveals what is truly happening. When prediction fades and presence rises, the market becomes easier to interpret simply because the trader is no longer fighting their own expectations. They are observing reality without distortion and acting from that clarity. In the end, execution becomes the defining trait of every consistently profitable trader. Not their strategy, not their analysis, not their ability to predict, but their ability to follow rules flawlessly. Execution is the act that turns intention into outcome, discipline into results, and probabilities into profit. Prediction may spark ideas, but execution is what builds a career in the market. Every trade is a unique event with its own outcome because no moment in the market can ever be perfectly replicated. Even if two charts look identical, the underlying variables, participants, liquidity, sentiment, global conditions, volatility, and order flow are never the same. This uniqueness is what makes trading inherently uncertain, and accepting this truth is the foundation of true trading psychology. When a trader understands deeply that each trade is independent, they stop projecting expectations from past results onto the present moment. They stop assuming that a winning streak guarantees another win, or that a losing streak predicts another loss. Every trade stands alone, shaped by its own market conditions and governed by its own probabilities. This shift in thinking liberates the trader from emotional baggage and allows them to operate with clarity, neutrality, and discipline. When traders do not accept the uniqueness of each trade, they fall into dangerous cognitive traps. For example, after a big win, they may feel invincible and start taking oversized positions, assuming the market will continue to reward them. Or, after a few losses, they may become fearful and hesitate on perfectly valid setups, believing the market is against them. These reactions come from one flawed assumption, that the outcome of the previous trade has some influence over the next one. In reality, the market does not know what you did yesterday, and it does not care. It behaves according to its own logic. Indifferent to your emotions and experiences, when you internalize this truth, your decisions become cleaner and more consistent because you stop letting past A2C ohms distort your next move. Understanding that every trade is unique also forces the trader to rely on probabilities instead of certainty. A trading strategy is simply an edge, something that, over a large sample of trades, produces a statistical advantage. But within that large sample, the distribution of wins and losses is random. You might win 5 trades in a row, or you might lose 4 before hitting a big winner. The order of outcomes is unpredictable, even if the long-term edge is steady. When traders expect each trade to behave like the previous one, they fight against this randomness. They expect patterns and outcomes where none exist, but when they embrace the independence of each trade, they allow the law of large numbers to work in their favor. This mindset also reduces emotional overload. When you treat each trade as unique, you approach the market with a fresh mind. You do not carry the weight of previous mistakes, nor do you ride the high of previous victories. Your emotional state resets before every execution. This emotional reset is critical because the market demands objectivity. If you enter a trade with emotional residue from earlier results, you distort your perception. You see danger where there is none or confidence where it is undeserved. Treating every trade as its own event keeps your mind aligned with reality instead of bias. Uniqueness also eliminates the urge to force outcomes. Many traders enter a trade and immediately start hoping, wishing, or mentally pushing price in their direction. They behave as if their desire influences the chart. It does not. The trade will do what it will do, regardless of how badly you want it to win. When you understand that each moment is new and uncontrollable, you stop trying to manipulate the outcome mentally. Instead, you focus on what you can control: your entry, your risk, your position size, your exit plan. Everything else is noise. This separation between controllable and uncontrollable variables is one of the most important psychological boundaries a trader can create. Another powerful effect of recognizing each trade as unique is the reduction of revenge trading. Revenge trading happens when a trader tries to recover losses from a previous trade by forcing a new one. The trader believes the market owes them something, or that the next trade must compensate for the last. But when you know the next trade has no relation to the previous one, there is nothing to get back. The market did not take anything personally, and it will not give anything back personally. Revenge trading collapses because the illusion behind it collapses. This principle also improves patience drastically. When traders think in terms of patterns repeating exactly as before, they take trades prematurely, expecting the outcome to match their memory. But when they see every setup as a fresh situation, they wait for all criteria to align. They do not rush, they do not anticipate, they observe. Patience becomes easier because there is no emotional urgency to force the market to repeat a past movement. Each opportunity must be evaluated based on its own merit. The uniqueness of each trade also strengthens discipline. Many traders become undisciplined because they treat their strategy as a guarantee. They assume that if the setup worked 5 times before, it must work again. This creates complacency. They start skipping rules, ignoring context, or entering early because they believe this one will surely work. But when they understand the uniqueness of each event, discipline becomes necessary. Every trade must be approached with full respect for the process. The trader becomes meticulous, not casual, because they know the outcome is never predetermined. Seeing each trade as unique, also sharp. Analytical clarity. Instead of relying on memory or assumptions, the trader examines the current conditions objectively. They evaluate volatility, market structure, momentum, liquidity, session timing, and context without comparing them to past trades. This objectivity increases accuracy because decisions are based on present information rather than historical emotional impressions. Many traders lose not because they lack technical skill, but because they are blinded by assumptions from the past. Fresh analysis prevents these psychological distortions. Accepting uniqueness also removes pressure. When traders believe that each trade must win, or that each trade must fix their account, they carry heavy emotional burdens. These burdens paralyze execution. But when they view each trade as just one of many within a long series, the pressure melts away. One trade becomes insignificant in the grand scheme, which is exactly how it should be. A single trade does not define a trader, the series does. This lightness of mind allows the trader to operate more freely, more calmly, and more accurately. Finally, uniqueness builds adaptability. Because the trader knows the market is never the same twice, they remain flexible. They stop rigidly expecting the same reactions, the same behaviors, the same outcomes. They stay open-minded. Flexibility is critical in a constantly shifting environment like the market. When the trader stops demanding sameness from the market, they begin responding to what is actually happening rather than what they think should happen. This adaptability elevates their skill level, allowing them to navigate different conditions with confidence, fluidity, and psychological resilience. Discipline removes emotional interference because it creates a structured environment in which your actions are guided by rules rather than impulses. When a trader lacks discipline, every movement in the market becomes a psychological trigger. A sudden candle spike can provoke excitement, a small retracement can trigger fear, and a losing trade can ignite frustration. Without discipline, these emotional fluctuations take over decision-making. The trader becomes reactive instead of strategic, and trading becomes a series of impulsive responses instead of controlled executions. Discipline acts like a filter. It separates what you feel from what you should do. It provides a framework that remains stable even when your emotions fluctuate. This stability allows you to execute consistently, and consistency is the only path to long-term success in an environment driven by probabilities. Discipline matters more than technical skill because knowledge alone does not prevent emotional mistakes. A trader can understand charts, indicators, patterns, and market structure perfectly, yet still blow their account because they cannot manage their reactions. Emotional interference creates behaviors that contradict logic, cutting winners too early, letting losers run, over-leveraging, hesitating on clear setups, jumping into trades out of boredom or frustration. These behaviors have nothing to do with strategy and everything to do with uncontrolled emotion. Discipline is the mechanism that stops these responses from manifesting. It allows the trader to follow the plan even when their internal state is urging them to do the opposite. The mind may scream to exit early to avoid risk or to chase a move, but discipline acts as the barrier that protects the process from emotional distortion. Discipline also establishes predictability in your actions. While the market is unpredictable, your behavior does not have to be. Discipline makes your actions repeatable, and repeatable actions are essential for any edge to manifest. A strategy produces results only when executed the same way over time. Without discipline, the same strategy becomes a different strategy every day because the trader keeps modifying entries, exits, risk levels, and decision criteria based on emotion. This inconsistency destroys the statistical foundation of the system. Discipline, on the other hand, creates a stable environment in which the same rules are applied without deviation. This stability allows probabilities to work in your favor over a long series of trades. Another reason discipline removes emotional interference is that it reduces cognitive load. When you operate without rules, every decision must be made in real time. You must evaluate setups, reconsider risk, interpret price action, and juggle your emotions simultaneously. This overload leads to fatigue, and fatigue amplifies emotional reactions. Decision-making becomes chaotic. But when discipline is applied through a well-defined set of rules, many decisions are already made before the trade even occurs. You know exactly what qualifies as an entry, where your stop must be, how much to risk, and what conditions justify an exit. This simplification frees mental bandwidth. With fewer decisions to make, the mind becomes calmer, more focused, and less likely to react emotionally. Discipline also builds confidence. When you consistently follow your rules, you begin to trust yourself. You see that your behavior aligns with your intentions. This internal alignment reduces doubt, fear, and hesitation. Most emotional interference comes from uncertainty about what to do in the moment. Discipline eliminates uncertainty. You no longer question whether you should enter or exit. The rules dictate it. Over time, as you witness the outcomes of disciplined behavior, your belief in the process strengthens. This growing confidence gradually reduces emotional volatility because you no longer rely on moment-to-moment feelings. You rely on the plan. Emotional interference often appears when traders try to avoid discomfort. They avoid accepting losses, avoid waiting, avoid boredom, avoid uncertainty. Without discipline, these avoidance behaviors become destructive. Traders widen stops because they don't want to take a loss. They overtrade because they cannot sit through calm periods. They close positions early because they become uncomfortable with unrealized profit. Discipline is the force that allows you to endure discomfort without acting irrationally. Discipline acknowledges that trading requires embracing discomfort, not escaping it. Accepting small losses, waiting patiently, and holding through fluctuations are all forms of discomfort. Discipline is the psychological strength that makes this possible. Discipline also distances you from the ego. Emotional trading is often driven by the ego's need to be right. The ego hates being wrong, and this hatred leads to revenge trading, stubbornly holding losers, or skipping setups because you fear failure. Discipline removes the ego from the equation by shifting your focus from being right to executing correctly. When the goal becomes following the plan rather than proving your accuracy, emotional interference loses power. You stop interpreting outcomes as personal reflections of your intelligence or worth. You start seeing them as natural variations within a probabilistic framework. Another important aspect is that discipline helps regulate expectations. Unrealistic expectations create emotional turbulence. Traders who expect every setup to win become disappointed and anxious whenever price moves against them. Those who expect fast profits become frustrated by consolidation. But when discipline is present, your expectations shift from individual trades to long-term results. You no longer demand immediate gratification. You respect the process. This long-term perspective weakens emotional reactions because your mindset is no longer tied to the outcome of any single trade. The emotional stakes drop significantly. Discipline also strengthens your ability to observe the market objectively. When emotions are active, perception becomes biased. Fear makes you see danger in normal fluctuations. Greed makes you overlook risk. Impatience makes you see setups where none exist. Discipline grounds you. It keeps you aligned with the structure of your rules instead of the distortions of your emotions. With discipline, you evaluate setups based on criteria, not feelings. This objectivity improves decision-making and reduces the chances of falling into psychological traps. Another powerful effect of discipline is the creation of habits. When you repeat discipline, actions consistently, they become automatic. Once a disciplined behavior becomes a habit, it requires less emotional effort to maintain. For example, placing stops, waiting for confirmation, or sticking to risk management may feel difficult at first, but with repetition, these become natural parts of your routine. This habituation further reduces emotional interference because actions no longer require emotional negotiation. They become the default. Lastly, discipline gives structure to your trading identity. Traders without discipline do not know who they are in the market. Their actions change daily based on their mood, fear, excitement, or stress. This unstable identity creates emotional chaos. Discipline defines you. It creates a consistent character, someone who follows rules, respects risk, acts objectively, and maintains composure. When your identity becomes stable, your emotions become less dominant. You operate as the trader you intend to be, not the one driven by impulses. Probabilities, not certainty, drive trading success. BQ. SE markets are inherently unpredictable, and no amount of analysis can guarantee a specific outcome. Every price movement is the result of countless decisions made by millions of participants, each with different motives, timeframes, and levels of information. This creates a constantly shifting environment where absolute prediction is impossible. When traders try to approach the market with certainty, they set themselves up for emotional turmoil, frustration, and inconsistent decision-making. Certainty is an illusion that leads to rigid expectations, and rigid expectations lead to disappointment. Probabilities, on the other hand, offer a realistic and flexible way of thinking. They acknowledge the randomness within the market while still allowing the trader to operate with structure, confidence, and discipline. When a trader shifts their mindset from wanting certainty to understanding probabilities, a profound psychological transformation takes place. They stop judging trades on individual outcomes and start judging them based on how well they executed their edge. A single trade becomes just one event in a much larger statistical series. This removes emotional pressure. There is no need for every trade to win, no need for perfect timing, and no need to constantly wrestle with fear and doubt. The trader accepts that losses are not evidence of failure, but rather an inherent part of the probabilistic game they're participating in. This acceptance dissolves the emotional resistance that sabotages so many traders. Fear lessens, impulsiveness fades, clarity increases. The mind stops trying to force the market to obey and instead focuses on following a process that has a statistical advantage over time. Probabilistic thinking also reshapes how traders interpret patterns and setups. Instead of seeing a setup as a guarantee, they see it as a possibility with a known edge. This perspective encourages consistency. A trader who understands probabilities does not skip trades arbitrarily out of fear, nor do they deviate from the plan because of overconfidence. Each setup is treated the same because the trader knows the outcome of any single trade is random. What matters is the outcome of many trades combined. This consistency is what allows probability to play out. Without consistent action, even a strong edge cannot deliver results. Probabilistic thinking becomes the psychological foundation that ensures the strategy is executed faithfully. This perspective also changes how traders manage risk. If one accepts that any trade can lose, then risk management becomes non-negotiable. It is no longer viewed as a limitation, but as protection against the randomness inherent in the market. Instead of trying to avoid losses entirely, the trader focuses on controlling their size. The goal becomes survival and longevity rather than perfection. By keeping risk per trade small, the trader ensures that no single outcome can significantly damage their account. This is how probabilities become powerful. They require a large enough sample size to manifest. Proper risk management keeps the trader alive long enough to experience that full distribution of outcomes. Probabilities also help eliminate the emotional bias of recent results. Traders who seek certainty often fall victim to recency bias, believing that what just happened will continue to happen. A few wins lead to overconfidence, oversized positions, and recklessness. A few losses lead to fear, hesitation, and analysis paralysis. But probabilistic thinking breaks this cycle. It reminds the trader that streaks, whether good or bad, are normal variations within a larger distribution. A winning streak does not mean the next trade is guaranteed to win. A losing streak does not mean the strategy has failed. It simply means randomness is playing out. With this mindset, the trader remains neutral, stable, and anchored in the long-term view. Probabilities also empower the trader to evaluate their strategy objectively. Without a probabilistic mindset, traders judge strategies based on short-term results. If a setup fails 3 times in a row, they abandon it, start over, or search for a new indicator. This constant switching destroys consistency and prevents mastery. But when the trader understands probabilities, they evaluate their strategy over hundreds of trades, not a handful. They look at the expectancy, the risk to reward structure, the win rate, and the overall long-term behavior of the edge. This analytical approach allows them to refine their method intelligently instead of emotionally. They stop chasing perfection and start measuring performance in a statistically meaningful way. Another important aspect is that probabilistic thinking reduces the ego's involvement in trading. The ego wants to be right. It hates being wrong. It interprets losses personally. But probabilities remove the need to be right on every trade. The trader no longer ties their identity to outcomes. Being wrong becomes normal. Losses become data. This detachment from personal validation frees the trader from the emotional traps that cause revenge trading, overtrading, and irrational risk-taking. The trader's self-worth becomes disconnected from their last result. They gain psychological freedom, and this freedom enhances performance. Probabilities also create a sense of patience. When traders believe in certainty, they feel pressure to always be in a trade, always catching the next move, always predicting the next swing. But when they understand that the edge plays out over time, they no longer chase every fluctuation. They wait for their setup. They respect their rules. They allow the distribution to unfold naturally. Patience becomes easier because the trader no longer tries to control the market. They trust the long-term behavior of their edge instead of forcing short-term results. Another powerful benefit is emotional resilience. Probabilistic thinking protects the trader from emotional extremes. Wins are not exaggerated into fantasies of invincibility, and losses are not catastrophized into existential crises. Both outcomes are simply part of the distribution. This balanced emotional state allows the trader to remain composed, focused, and rational. It prevents impulsive reactions that sabotage consistency. Emotional resilience becomes a natural byproduct of seeing the market as a probabilistic environment rather than a battleground of certainty. Probabilities also shift the trader's expectations about how success is achieved. Instead of seeking one perfect trade, one perfect entry, or one perfect analysis, they understand that success is built through accumulation, many small disciplined decisions executed over time. This cumulative approach removes the pressure from any one moment and places value on process rather than prediction. It changes the trader's mindset from "I must win now" to "I must follow my edge consistently." That shift is transformative because it aligns the trader with the reality of the market. Finally, probabilistic thinking leads to long-term mastery. When the trader embraces probabilities fully, their entire trading approach becomes grounded in logic, data, and emotional neutrality. They stop fighting the market. They stop fighting themselves. They operate from a place of clarity and acceptance. They no longer seek perfection. They seek consistency. They no longer chase certainty. They embrace probability. This shift allows them to grow, adapt, and refine their skills continuously because their mindset is aligned with the true nature of the market.